Yo, welcome back to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, review, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. If you want to hear us talk more about all this good stuff, make sure you hit that thumbs up button for you guys. If you don't do these things, I have to assume you're one of the very few haters who are not about to see the new Spider-Man movie. That trailer came out today, and that shit looked fire. Lane, are you into Spider-Man at all?
I'm not. I'm so as big of a movie person I am, I missed the Marvel craze. I just never really in it, and I'm probably going to be one of those people, those sad few that won't see it. I have no context.
See, this is a generational gap.
Yeah. I was talking on the phone to my sister like 5 minutes before I hopped on just now, and I was like, I've not seen any of the Spider-Mans. I watched the trailer right when it came out, of course, just because I follow movies, but like I've seen none of the new Spider-Mans. I've watched all of the Tobey Maguire ones, obviously growing up, but none of the new ones at all. None. So what am I missing out on?
How Lane, good you have to understand. So I will say this, right? So I've seen each iteration of the Spider-Mans. The first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. I've seen all three, right? I personally would argue that this version of it is the best of the three. Right? So I do think you're missing out a lot, because I would argue that this one has yet to hit any level of they're doing too much. Because here's the thing, Spider-Man, and essentially almost every single comic book that you could think of, has, I would say, your classic villains and a lot of all right guys. Like, these guys ain't really matter that much. Like, every single Spider-Man has had Green Goblin in it. Every single am I right? Did Andrew Garfield have Goblin? I think he did. But the Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man was trash. And then, technically he was the second Green Goblin, but that's neither here nor there. There's just like big characters that are always in them. And the issue I would say with Spider-Man is one of the very few superheroes that ages. Because he's a kid when he gets bit by the spider, but Spider-Man goes from being a kid to being a full-fledged adult through the comic books, right? Like, you see him be like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, then you see him kind of be like out on his own. He breaks up with MJ, he gets back with MJ a bunch of times. He's like living by himself a bunch of times, and like you see him like fully become an adult. And every single one of the Spider-Men have gone through that same path. Andrew Garfield started off as a kid and then became an adult, even though he only had 2 movies. Tobey Maguire, same thing. Kid went to an adult. And Tom Holland is doing the same thing. Whereas this right now, I would say, is his time to now be an adult. The other thing that I would say that gives Tom the up is that he's been Spider-Man the most. Like, if I combine his movies and all the Marvel movies, I think this might be either his 6th or 7th Spider-Man movie, because he was in Avengers Endgame 1 and 2, and he has these 4. This is going to be the 4th one. So and he was in Civil War. So yeah, so this is 7. That was 7. The Civil War was his first movie as Spider-Man. And so he's just been Spider-Man the longest, I think. And I think so far it's weird because I'm talking about Spider-Man like he's about to be James Bond, but I think he is. I mean, I'm dead ass. Like, how many James Bond movies are there? Like 10?
Through the history of James Bond, 50, I think. But yeah.
Okay, so like we are at just straight movies, nothing anime. And again, if I even count the animated movies, we're at like the 12th Spider-Man movie. Just keeping it buck with 4 different guys. And I think the thing that to close this ramble off is, I think Holland has done a great job of capturing the essence of joyful innocence, where it's like, I'm just kind of a kid trying to figure this out, with when it's time to get shit done, I'm getting shit done. And I think that's the hardest balance with Spider-Man. It's like Spider-Man's like fucking around, for lack of a better term, a lot of the time. But when it's time to get shit real, and like Spider-Man goes through like very tragic things in his arc, And I think the last Spider-Man movie, Peter went through a lot more of that. So I think there was a lot more of like range for Tom to do as like acting wise. And I think this movie is shaping up to be kind of like that. So that's like my 5 little spiel of Spider-Man and his movies.
Okay, good shit. That's a good pitch. That's a good pitch.
I would watch it, man. Like, you don't have to watch the Tobey Maguire or the Andrew Garfield ones to get this. And I would say, because again, I'm a nerd about this shit. So like, I know the like villains. You don't need to necessarily even know that much about the villains going into it. Like, it's pretty like this guy flies. Okay, he does this thing, right? Like, it's pretty easy to like understand the thing. There might be like a little like background you might not get, but like you can figure that shit out on YouTube.
That's good. I'll watch it for you. How about that? We can talk about it when it comes out.
I appreciate it. Listen, I'm telling you, they're great movies. I stamp all three. All three are excellent movies. And I think this one's going to be good as well. Speaking of superheroes or someone not coming up super, the USA did not do that, and we are back where we always are, talking crap about Aaron Judge in the clutch. The WBC happened last night. And before we get into like the overall discussion, we didn't talk about the WBC at all. And I think I'll ask you, because I don't think it was a miss from us, because when we talked about doing this pod, we were just going to talk about baseball season starting. You know, baseball season, if you don't know, starts in a week. And that was my mindset. And I thought this WBC thing was going to be kind of not stupid, but I just thought it was going to be like no one was going to pay attention to it. And I mean, they're talking about the ratings of this thing being the highest. This might be one of the highest rated non-football games that we have this year. So what was your like initial takeaway of the WBC, and how did you feel it ended up, you know, living up to whatever hype that it came to be?
I think it ended up exceeding the expectation that I had for it. So going back 2 years ago to 23, I felt like that team had a lot more, maybe just like mojo or swag to it. Whereas this team, this American team, was, you know, lifeless or swagless, I would say, through much of the tournament. And so I never really bought into them, and I never really followed them, honestly. I mean, I would follow the games, I would watch, but I didn't care. And in 23, we had the incredible, you know, it felt like it was destined to be Japan, be USA. And we had the incredible Ohtani striking out Trout moment to end it. That's like an all-time classic baseball moment just in my entire life, is watching that live. But this year, I just feel like I never had the motivation to really invest in this team. I feel like from the get-go, it was just like not the right energy, maybe not the right group of guys. There was all of this weird stuff with all of the other teams about getting insurance, so the teams weren't completely full strength as they could be. And then we had this weird American thing where we were only going to pitch our best pitchers like one game, like Scooble pitches one game. It just didn't feel like it was really the heart of competition in the way that it has felt in other years, at least from the American perspective. And so I think that I felt a little lost about how to root for it in that regard. I will say that final was an electric game, and I had an absolutely great time watching it. That Venezuelan team is so fun, and watching them win was genuinely made me extremely happy. Like, I was extremely happy for them. My guy Palencia striking out, it was awesome. Coming in the ninth, his mojo, I love that guy. Like, as my Cubs heart was just so happy to see it. And then the Judge question, he goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. So it's just like the most classic Judge game to have in an important game ever. I don't know. Were you watching last night? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was watching last night, and I think kind of like you, I knew about it, but I was like I said, I was like, my biggest thing is like, I want, when there's competition, I want there to be like a high level of kind of competing, right? Like, a lot of times if I watch the Olympics for basketball, it's tough for me to get excited about the USA versus Sudan, right? Because Sudan doesn't have any real NBA players on it. So it's like, okay, like, in the end, this game might be close, which it was the last time that they played. But in the end, I don't think the USA is going to lose to, you know, South Sudan or anything like that. With that being said, the thing that drew me in was how loaded the Dominican Republic team was. Like, I was looking at their lineup and I was like, when did all these guys become Dominican? Again, you're not going to tell me Austin Wells will not have a Dominican wife by the end of the season. That man was too deep in the culture. Okay, I've seen this happen before. I saw the stands. Okay, it's too much for him to handle. I don't know if that man is single, but bless up. But my point of it was like, seeing that, it also shows me just how old white men can make sports not fun. And my bigger takeaway from that is, you saw the Dominican Republic, you saw Puerto Rico, you saw Venezuela, you saw Mexico. Those people were having a blast. Soto was smacking home runs, pointing at the bench, going crazy. Tatis, I was like, someone's gonna throw at this man. Like, they do it I was texting my friends. They go like, we in New York, we were going to have a problem if it was Puerto Rico versus the Dominican Republic. The heart of the city was on the line. You can't be doing 360 windmill throwing the bats in New York. I gotta live with both of these people walking around town, and thankfully that didn't happen. But you just then saw just contrast that with the American team of like, we brought in like the SEAL team, 6 guys that took out like, how many times did those dudes talked, man? That happened 20 years ago. Not even. Yeah, I don't even remember when he took out Osama. That was like 20 years ago almost. Like, do y'all have fun? That's the thing that gets me every single time, is like when people just don't realize, like, at the end of the day, sports is fun. All right. I like doing this, not just because I can talk about other things that I think are just introspective in life, but man, y'all make things that aren't fun. And I think seeing the contrast between the Latin American teams and the USA team in particular, even Italy, they had the little espresso cups. That was fire. And y'all, it's like, oh, we're taking this so seriously, things like that. And yeah, I think, that was my main takeaway, was just the fact that, unfortunately, we have beaten the fun out of so many things, and baseball is the prime example of just the fun that just got slapped out of this sport.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's been a fight in the last 10 years, the sort of rejection of the unwritten rules. We're going to pimp a home run now. Like, Tatis is going to watch it fly, Skeens even at a time last year was getting hype on in the 5th inning every time when he'd come out, his last strikeout before they sit his ass down. There's some of that energy with a younger generation, but you're not wrong. This team was not fun. Watching Alex Bregman walk is not fun. It's just not. Watching fucking Aaron Judge strike out,
your guy,
is not
Alex
fun.
Bregman.
Yeah, my guy. Yeah. The guy
he's on your team, man.
Guy.
Your guy.
That's my guy. My guy that played for Israel in the last WBC is now playing for America. Yeah. Good vibes. I don't know. It was not a fun team. You're right. And I mean, I think part of this has to do with fucking Mark DeRosa. That guy is an idiot, flat out. He's a buffoon, and he had
So here's no. It's a good transition, because it's funny, because I don't have MLB Network, but I love watching the clips of when they talk about like teams, because I think the hardest thing about baseball is really judging a team on the fly, right? Because, again, I apologize. I'm going to use a Mets example on this podcast. 2 years ago, when the Mets went to the NLCS, right? They at one point were 11-22, and they looked dead as they could ever be. And I'm like, well, the season's over. Like, I don't need to pay attention to this thing. And then all of a sudden, they just got hot. It was the grimace, the vibes, the OMG, all that stuff. And then it then propelled them to go where they were. Last season, kind of like what you said, the manager came out, the best player came out, and the second best player came out and said, like, yeah, this was way too corporate. And I just feel like there's just this tension that baseball always has where it's like, we need to be serious, but also it's just a game. And they constantly are having this like odd dance with it. And I think the biggest thing that DeRosa did is I think the pressure got to him. Like, I think that he couldn't, I don't think that he could get those guys to relax. You're not going to tell me that lineup could get only 2 runs and got 2 hits off of the Venezuelan pitchers. It's not like they were throwing out like elite starting pitching, and I feel like they just got kind of choked up. And again, I am someone who I'm not a big blame the coach kind of guy, and I do think he has some constraints around him from like what other teams want to deal with. But every manager was dealing with that. Every manager playing in this had, not every, a majority of managers had an MLB player on the team or an MLB pitcher on the team, right? Just because, we don't want Paul Skeens to get hurt. I don't even know who Jose Budo's playing for. He might still be playing for the Giants. Do you think the Giants want that guy to get hurt too? No. Like, they still value him as a player, even though he's not as high profile as a Paul Skeens or a Nolan McLean. And yeah, I think that he had a tough go of it. And I think he's probably the only guy that probably comes out as a true loser of this whole thing. But go ahead. Tell me your Mark DeRosa convo.
100%. I mean, a lot of it is the same. I think that his complete failure to motivate, it seems. And I think that goes back to, I mean, it's really easy to pick on him now in the full picture of everything with the way that he handled the Italy game and the way that he was like, he didn't realize that if they lost, they could still not make the final, make the second round, make it out of the pool. So he clearly wasn't fully informed. He shouldn't have been speaking about it in that way if he wasn't fully informed, which just shows to me like a general apathy for the situation that he's in. Either he's just completely inept and he shouldn't be in that position, or he doesn't care enough and he shouldn't be in that position. But either way, it has the same end note, And it's really frustrating that it feels like they to some degree threw this away just by like from the jump, by just roster construction and manager choice. Like, that's just flat out frustrating.
But here's the thing that I somewhat disagree with, in the sense of like, whoever runs the WBC, at least the American side, you're not sending Aaron Judge if you don't care. You're not sending Bryce Harper if you don't care. Bobby Witt Jr., Pete Crow Armstrong. Like, we sent, of all of the American guys, like position players, I can't think of a guy who's glaring who did, like, obviously there's gonna be some pitchers, right? But I think pitchers are just kind of in a different space. But like, I don't know, like, to me, that seemed like the best that America could do. Like, there wasn't like a glaring guy who said no to this from the start. I mean, we can talk about Skubal, but I think Skubal has 400 million reasons why he didn't need to pitch anymore, right? Like, I think that made a lot more sense for him. But yeah, I think that this whole thing will be more of a learning experience, in the sense of, while I don't know if this is going to rise to the level of when you're obviously going to be too young, but the 2004 men's Olympics game is one of the biggest embarrassments that this country has ever had when it comes to Olympic sports. Those boys still get crapped on to this day. And mind you, that team had LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony on. They weren't where they are now, or where, they end up their careers being. But best believe that 2004 time is equal to the 1988 time where the USA lost to Russia, I believe, in the gold medal game. And the USA said, never again. And the one thing that I know about this country now is that when they lose in a way that they feel like they should not lose, they send the heavy hitters. So I don't know if they going to call Bruce Bochy up out of retirement. I don't know if they're going to get Dave Roberts. I don't know who that manager is going to be. But they are finding that dude, and he will be managing these moving forward.
No doubt. No, you're 100% right. They're not going to let this happen again. It looks embarrassing for American baseball. Not because it's not embarrassing that they lost to Venezuela. Venezuela is a good team that played better than them, flat out. and played good the whole tournament. It's embarrassing how they lost. It was just weak. You know, it took till the eighth inning to really get anything going. They couldn't hit when people were on base the entire tournament, pretty much, especially in the quarterfinals, semis, and finals. So it's just the manner in which it happened. And going back to the previous point about not caring, I think you're super right. Clearly, through roster construction, they care. We sent out a good team of players, but I think there was a failure to make those players really care. And that's where, in the end, to me, where it all went wrong.
Factual. Okay, we can have the Aaron Judge conversation. So
I'm dying for it. You know I'm loving it.
Oh yeah. No. I'm ready to tee you off. It's odd for me because I do not like Yankees. I make this very clear. I do not like Yankees fans because they are, I repeat, the most annoying people in the world. Off the and I want to be very clear. I should come off a name for this. I hate the Yankees, Lakers, North Carolina, Alabama football, Real Madrid fans. Those guys I hate. The sports with no men people. And I just think that like these guys are just so fucking annoying. Like this guy is, I would argue, the second or third greatest player I've ever seen. He's probably still behind Bonds, maybe behind Pujols for me, right? Him and Pujols probably go back and forth in my mind as the best players I've seen. I'm like, shit, I even think about Ohtani at this point. So yeah, so probably even fourth. But point is like he's one of the greatest players I've personally ever seen on one of these games going to go down to. And by and large part, I think this guy has had clutch moments or has hit a lot of big home runs or had a lot of big hits. And yet we have this narrative around this guy of him choking. And I think the thing is that it's kind of, I think Yankees fans, or I think the baseball world, he is an odd mix of what Derek Jeter was to Yankees fans and what Alex Rodriguez is to Yankees fans. What I mean by that is, oftentimes, you can let me know. Maybe I don't think the Cubs don't really sign a lot of big time free agents, or at least not in recent memory. But there's a difference between. I'm not even taking a shot. I'm really just saying. No, I'm making it as a point because, like, there is a difference between, I believe, having a homegrown player versus having a guy you bought, right? A guy that you got from another team. As good as that player is, right? I think it's tough at times for those guys to feel fully integrated into the team because maybe you weren't in on them super early enough. It's like every indie band, right? Like, oh, I love this guy because I listened to his first album when it was 12 people in the room and now it's 12,000 people in the room. And I just think there's just a difference with that. So I feel like there's a Jeter element of it where it's like he's got that kind of homegrownness. You've seen him become a star. He's the captain of the team. But yet, he also has this A-Rod in him where, let's keep it a buck, A-Rod was the better player. He's got as many MVPs as A-Rod now. He's smacking home runs. He is looked upon to be the better player. And yet, in the key moments of games, fans just don't believe this guy's going to come through. And I think he's juggling and living in these two worlds of being beloved by the fans, but also having a significant amount of the fans seem to hate him because he hasn't gotten, quote unquote, the job done. And I think this WBC just exacerbated the problem, right? Like, I don't think he was in a lose-lose situation. If he had smacked a home run, they won the game, I feel like fans would have been like, you got to do it in October. What does this matter? Right? They would have done the same thing, but he failed. And then it's just a confirmation bias of this guy can't do it in big spots. So yeah, how do you feel about Aaron Judge's performance in the game?
He's such an interesting character because of exactly the way you laid out, where he feels almost less clutch than he actually is. I think the stat is he has the most home runs in elimination playoff games ever. I think he has like 6 or 7, which is crazy. That is like kind of a pure pure hitters category to way to describe somebody as being clutch. That is like flat out impressive. But every time he comes up to bat in an important game, I feel like he's going to get out. And that feeling as a fan is almost more important than the reality of the situation. Where it's like, if you can't trust him, and especially trying to think of it as a Yankees fan, if you can't trust him in that moment, then like, what does he signify for your team? Can, do his teammates trust him in October? It certainly wouldn't feel like it. Obviously, in 2025, he had his best postseason ever. He was able to hit well, he hit for average, and hit with power. All the things that he's failed to do so far in his career in the postseason. And I think that the disparity between regular season Judge and postseason Judge is just so immense, where you describe him as a top 5 player that you've ever seen in your life. And then in postseason, he's replacement level or worse. That is such a hard thing to like keep in mind as like the reality of a player. I don't really think that there's a comp that I can think of in baseball. In basketball, James Harden, like is that the closest
Definitely
comparison?
James Harden, yeah.
So,
well, the thing about James Harden too is like, not even to cut you off, but the whole thing about even Harden is like, Harden hasn't even gotten as far as Judge has. Harden's never been the best player on the team that's gotten to the finals. At least Judge has done that, right? Like, and I think it's so funny because James Harden is just the comp for every other move. It's like Lamar Jackson, the James Harden of football, right? It's like he is just the poster child of this. But for like baseball, to me, I think at least makes sense because like you can bring in specialists. You can bring in left-handed pitchers who just like attack one side of the zone. It's hard. Like you could build teams out to have lanes to make it so that this guy just can't be effective. Where like Aaron just can go 4 for 4, but like let's say the 4 for 4 was 2 singles and 2 doubles and no one was on base and no one got him in, right? Harden is playing against all these guys and just crumbles in the, not even just a clutch, he just crumbles in general. So yes, I think that's a fair argument, but yeah, it's an odd for him to have these kind of like trials and tribulations.
Do you feel like there is an answer to this, or is it just plain like nerves, the stress of a big moment? Is that as simple as it gets?
Yeah, I think anything at this point is on the table to be mental. I kind of just think it's almost like he's just due kind of thing. Like baseball is such a numbers game, and when you have such a small sample size in a postseason, I think that like it's hard to think about this, right? And the weird thing about baseball, unlike a lot of other sports, is it's so numbers based, right? Versus like, I don't really care about I think efficiency matters over a long season, right? Because you want to have someone who has great efficiency throughout a season, because okay, this is almost like a baseline to know like what we can do, how much we can rely on a player. Come playoff time, all that stuff is out the window. Like we need to win, and whatever helps us win today helps us win. I don't care if a guy shoots 20% from the corner threes. If he's hitting threes in this game, he's hitting threes. We need to ride this guy and let him go through. I mean, listen, I am old enough to know when Alex Rodriguez was benched in a playoff game and it worked. For Raul Ibanez. Whew, that was a great pull. That was right back there in my brain. And so I think it's the same. And that's the thing, is that I don't think that was the postseason they won the World Series. But I think that he will have his time, is basically my point. I saw this guy, A-Rod, get so in his mind and it would lock everything up that I just think eventually Judge, it will all smooth out and he'll be able to go on a run. Now, it doesn't mean the Yankees are going to win a World Series with this guy, but I just frankly don't think that he's going to be, he's too good of a player to keep playing this bad in big spots. Is kind of really what my overall point is going to be with
It has to even out, in other words.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree, like, literally, it feels like it has to, but emotionally, I don't agree. Emotionally, I don't
Yeah,
trust it.
inside.
Yeah.
But that's the great thing. That's the great thing about it, right? Like your eyes can tell you something, but then also it's like I just don't trust that guy. That's the thing. That's always been my thing about baseball, right? It's like baseball's way more vibes than we give it credit for. Again, I'm about to experience this. You could tell me Devin Williams' numbers are X, Y, and Z. I do not trust that motherfucker. Okay. I trusted Edwin Diaz. Okay. I do not trust Devin Williams. And I already know the moment he blows a save in game 30, I'm going to lose my shit because I'm like, Edwin wouldn't have blown that, right? It's just, but there's no number to prove that, right? So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes with Judge. Any more thoughts or any last thoughts for the WBC before we shift over to the season?
Mostly just excited for Venezuela. Genuinely. That team was sick. Happy they won. Yeah. Yeah. Good
Yeah,
shit.
I can't believe I'm about to say this. Shout out to Ronnie Acuña Jr. That's the
Shout
only
out.
credit I'll ever give a Brave ever to going. But speaking of that, we are going to talk about the MLB season that was going to start in less than a week by the time this podcast comes out for you guys. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the season at large, which might be the last season before me and Lane are in our 40s. So we have the list of teams here. No real, I would say, shocking moves of the offseason, besides like Kyle Tucker was probably the biggest transaction that took place going to the Death Star. But obviously everyone knows who we're going for, right? It's the season to see if anyone can stop the Dodgers from three-peating. So who do you think is the best equipped to at least kind of give the Dodgers a run for their money for this season? It could be it could be any league. It doesn't have to be NL specific.
I wore this hat because one, the Mariners are my AL team because I'm from Portland, and two, the Mariners are in my mind, the best roster like makeup to beat the Dodgers. And the main reason for that is that they do have the best, if everything works out injury wise, which is genuinely always the problem with baseball. If their bullpen is healthy, I still think that they have the best bullpen, even better than the Dodgers. Like it has a higher potential. They just they're not going to get the same production from Raleigh unless like a miracle happens. He's going to be a great player, but he's not going to hit 60 home runs again, and that's okay. But they're going to get better pitching from Bryce Miller. He had that oblique injury. It doesn't seem to be a big deal. Brian Wu is having a breakout. I expect that to continue. They have Emerson, their superstar, one of the highest prospects in baseball. They got Brendan Donovan. I don't know. Josh Naylor, I still have belief in. It feels like a team that was riding so much of what we've talked about already is about vibes, and they were riding an incredible vibe train, even through really bad injury luck on their pitching staff. And to me, if they can combine the vibe train with genuinely healthy starting pitching, they're going to be the best team in the American League, hands down. Does that even really give them a fighting chance against the Dodgers? Who knows? The Blue Jays just took them to 7. So if the Blue Jays can lose the World Series on a couple of inches, then maybe the Mariners can win by a couple. Do you have a team in the AL or the NL that you think that can do it?
I do. I'm just curious. Do you think there will be a fight in the locker room since Cal Raleigh did not want to shake his teammates' hands during the WBC?
Randy's gonna put belt to ass, and then everyone's gonna be okay. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because my man was not giving out handshakes, and he did not sound happy about that. My man said,
"No,
Toma."
Randy was Randy was ready, and that's one of the reasons why we love Randy. Randy's ready to go.
Randy's ready to go, man. Yeah. So I would say that I think Seattle's a great choice. I think that I'm always big into teams that heartbreak. Now, baseball's a little tough again because a guy could have a great season, like you just said. Like no one's expecting Kyle Raleigh to hit smack 60 home runs. If he hits 35 home runs next year, it'll be awesome. But that's going to be a significant drop off in production. So it's going to be like, okay, you can't expect him to do that, but you'll have Josh Naylor for the whole year. Maybe you can think, all right, we'll be able to make up the production for the whole season with him on the team, as he was just there in the second half of the year. Maybe I'm going back to the well, and maybe this was not going to be great. I'm going back with the Red Sox. I don't know why I like that team, but Roman Anthony got hurt for the second half or the last 2 months of the year. I think he had an oblique. He didn't play a lot of the games. Garrett Crochet, I think, is one of, if not the best pitcher in baseball. Him, Skubal, Skeens are kind of in that elite tier. I think they have the guy who's probably going to be managing the WBC moving forward with their manager. And I just feel like they made the playoffs last year. They lost to the Yankees in the AL wildcard round. And I feel as if they're going to have a lot better hitting. I know they lost Bregman to the Cubs, which I don't know if that really concerns me. I'm always a little concerned about veteran presence, but I think that team is sick athletically, and I am bullish on them being a team that has vibes. And I don't know if they'll win the division. I still think the Blue Jays or the Yankees should be favored to win the division, but they're the team that I'm picking again. I don't know why I'm going back to this Red Sox. Well, I'm not a Boston fan at all, but that's the team I have at the moment, being one of the biggest challengers for trying to knock off the Dodgers. How do you feel about my Red Sox take?
Maybe it's like the year after that it's finding it all quick. Yeah, yeah. Like it's gonna happen this time. I mean, when you spell it out, when you give the reasons, it's like, yeah, I can picture it, but I don't have the same faith that I did. I mean, I think what you're relying on is like the Roman Anthony superstar breakout as like the foundational thing, and I honestly think that is one of the more interesting bets to be making this year. I have a lot of faith in that guy, and he does have that sort of like swag and oeuvre that really generates a lot of eyeballs and interest in the team. He's got a great nickname. It's just this stuff there. So I'm not I'm with you. I'm seeing it. I still think the Blue Jays or the Yankees are probably going to win that division. The Blue Jays losing Bo Bichette is huge. It's going to impact their team a lot, hopefully to your team's benefit. But I have a lot of faith that rotation got a lot better with Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease has not had his underlying numbers have stayed consistently good in the nerd metrics, and his production has never quite reached the heights that they suggest. So I have faith that eventually that, like you're talking about with Aaron Judge earlier, eventually it's going to even out. And I think that there's a good chance that it evens out with this Blue Jays rotation, which would be such a huge deal because they really piecemealed that team in October. So if they can get 200 innings out of Dylan Cease, which would just be incredible, I have more faith that the Jays will win even than the Red Sox. But I like that you picked it because I wanted it to happen last year. And so I like that you're picking it now.
I'm going, man. But I will also say that the reason why I have confidence in them is that they were still able to make the playoffs. And I still think I would say the AL East and the NL East are the two best divisions still. Maybe the NL West might have a little bit of a say about that, but the Rockies are there and they're terrible. But yeah, I mean, like you just said, the Blue Jays got to the World Series. The Yankees are going to be the Yankees. The Orioles got better, spent a lot of money or a decent amount of money, including getting Pete Alonso on the team. And I just mentioned the Red Sox, obviously. And the Rays are always a pain in the ass. That's always what they are. From playing in that 2x4 stadium, they're still going to be an annoying team to play. And Cheerios on the Rays, or am I getting him?
I think he's on the Brewers.
He's on the Brewers. Who was on the Venezuelan team that's on the Rays?
I don't know.
Am I getting this messed up? Either way, the Rays gonna have someone good. I'm gonna see.
Yes.
You know what? They gonna say that I'm being racist because I can't tell you my Venezuelan brother who's on the team, but I know there's
Yeah.
someone on the team. It's either because it's either
Churrios?
Cheerio.
He's a
Yes.
brewer. He's a brewer. He's a brewer. No, he's a brewer. Yeah.
Who's all right? So is it the Dominican one who's on the Rays?
Maybe. I don't know who you're talking about.
Cabanero.
Oh yeah. He's on. Yeah. Caminero.
See,
Yeah.
I knew
yeah.
I was right.
Yeah.
I knew. See,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. All my
He's
Spanish
a Dominican third baseman.
people.
Yeah.
I knew he was on. See, that's what I'm saying. All right, listen. I know there's a moment in time where a lot of people say they look alike. You can't tell me that was not too close. Okay, that was that needed replay review. Okay, it was right there. See, I knew he was on the team. Anyway, exactly. See, you see what I'm saying? It's not great that a white man saying that, but neither here nor there. But yeah, like I think the Rays are just gonna be a pain in the ass for the season, and I think that's kind of the whole star. I have a team that I think is gonna be a little bit of the Rays of last year. Kind of my pick, kind of in the Red Sox zone, and I do not remember the rookie's name, but they have really hyped him up. I'm going with the Pirates. I don't know if the Pirates are going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be bad.
They've got Connor Griffin, right? Yeah, number one. Connor, yeah.
And so he's supposed to be playing. I'll be at opening day, so I will see him, guarantee you, smack a home run, because that is what happens with the Mets. Obviously, Skeens will be going for another Cy Young this year. I don't even think he really has that much competition in the NL, unless Shohei's really gonna pitch a lot this season. But we'll see. But yeah, I think the Pirates have done a decent amount of winning. That's not true. I think the Pirates have done a decent amount. Yeah, they don't do that. They've done a decent amount of developing. That's the word I was trying to look for. A lot of their young guys. I still like Cruz. Not Ellie Day, but O'Neal Cruz. You can't tell me they're not cousins either. And I just think that they are a team that no one's really talking about. I don't necessarily think the NL Central is that strong of a division. And I think that they will win more games than people expect them to win. And we saw it last year. The Reds snuck in and got into the playoffs. So do I think it's the craziest thing to think that the Pirates will get in? I don't necessarily think they hit as well, per se. And outside of Skeens, their pitching is a little like this. But I just don't think they're going to be as bad as their Vegas line probably says they will be. So that's my team in that.
I like it. I like that as a pick. I think O'Neal is one of those guys that I feel like I've been betting on, being like, this is the year. He's got so much power and so much speed, and like he throws the ball a million. He's huge. Like it's like I've been waiting for it to happen. I feel like he's another one of those like breakout guys that like every nerd metric guy is going to tell you that it's going to be this is the year. Maybe it is, and maybe that's the reason, in combination with Connor being really good, that they actually win more games. I don't disagree that I can see the way that they can win 75, 82 games, somewhere in there. And for the Pirates, that's a huge, huge step forward. They've been losing for so long. So, a 500 season would be sick. I hope it happens for them.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't come at the Cubs' expense.
I mean, listen, they're only going to have Paul Skeens for what, 4 more years, 3 more years, something like that. Like this man, I mean, the writing's on the wall. He's going to make more money than what their franchise is evaluated at. Like he's gone. But I would at least hope for Pittsburgh Pirates fans, which is an historically great MLB franchise, that they at least get some competitive September games with this guy on the mound. Like, he's a great pitcher. You can argue he's the best pitcher in the game right now. It's either, him, Skubal, like I said, Crochet.
I think it's those guys are so interesting right now because I feel like they're actually almost appointment TV for baseball. like watching a Skeens game is like it's worth it just no matter who they're playing, or watching a Scooble game is just worth it because of how fucking good they are. That's so fun that we have two pitchers of that level. I feel like that hasn't happened in I don't know, 10, 20 years.
Exactly. And it's like having, like, I just remember the days, man, when Jacob deGrom was pitching for my Mets, and the Mets sucked. But I at least got to enjoy watching this guy. Like, he would go 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, and 0 walks with 10 strikeouts, and he was losing 3-1. And I was just like, you got to be fucking kidding me, dog. Like, it was so frustrating, but I loved watching this guy pitch because no one could touch this dude. And he was killing it. And I feel like there's such a level of, like, not sadness per se, but there's just like what are we doing here if we don't have a guy that is giving you that type of production and you can't at least win his starts, Like, I don't even know what Skeen's record was, but like they didn't do that well when he pitched. And if you have a guy who's that good, you're going to have to win 3 out of every 4 of his starts minimum, that just gives you a chance to be a playoff team. If your best pitcher's going and you win, a majority of his starts. And yeah, I think the Pirates have a little bit, going, and that's kind of the team I think is going to be a little bit of a surprise. But yeah. All right. What about you? What's your team? What's your team that might surprise going into next season?
I had two. I had two that I liked. One of them, I think, I don't think it's a surprise. I'm just really I'm counting on a bounce back, and I don't think you're going to be really happy about this. But I think the Braves are going to be seriously good this year. Like, seriously, seriously good.
I mean, like, half the team was hurt. So, yeah, like, it's not surprising.
Half the team was hurt. Half the team. And I think it just takes, like 1 or 2 things going their way. I know that one pitcher, he's got like, his name's like Woodrow, or like his last name is like Wilson or Woodrow, something like real classic presidential, some bullshit name. And he had I think it was loose bodies in his elbow were found, which is like my favorite baseball headline I've read in months, where he hurt his elbow last year. He was having like a rookie of the year level campaign. He was building up his stature, hurts his elbow. This offseason, all we hear about the Braves is that this guy's coming back, and immediately he's got loose bodies in his elbow. There's just something purely wrong with Braves pitching and their elbows. It just happens every season, all the time. So my bet is that they have 10%, no, they have 30% better luck. That team is a playoff team. They have such a good roster. They have arguably a top 5 hitter in the league. Like, it can happen for them. And I just have much higher expectations than where they reached to last year. So I expect that to, again, even out as baseball does. Kind of a boring pick. So my more fun pick. You've got Braves thoughts? What are your Braves thoughts?
Yeah. I fucking hate that team. No, like, yeah, I mean, you would have to think that, right? Like, Austin Riley's still really good. He's still down there. Matt Olson is still really good. He's still down there. Obviously, you have Ronald Acuna Jr., who can be an MVP candidate, even though he has, I don't believe, any more ACLs. Chris Harris had one of the worst first halves MLB player can have, and then had one of the best second halves an MLB player can have. It's an odd season, and then they have like decent pitching. They literally had no rotation. At one point, all of their pitchers, Spencer Strider, all their guys were just hurt. And like you said, like, just by osmosis, you have to think that they're going to be able to bounce back and kind of go for it. But one of the interesting kind of sneaky things that could happen is, and I don't know how I ended up on Braves TikTok or whatever, but one of the radio hosts was talking about Acuna. And I think we might have talked about this on the last pod, where I believe he has 1 year left on his contract. Let me look it up right now. I'm pretty sure it's this season and next season are his last years with the Braves. And the reason I want that up is, he signed an 8-year deal. Okay, yeah. So he signed an 8-year deal in 2019, and it runs through 2026. Now, the key with this is that there's 2 club option years for the next 2 years. So next year, which we may or may not have a season, for 2027 and 2028. I would assume the Braves are gonna try and give him an extension, even though this guy, once again, ACLs are kind of cooked. But, I would still think that he is going to be a guy that, just blew out both his ACLs. I've never seen that as a baseball player, ever. But this is his last year. This is his last contract year before he has these 2 club options. He'll be 29 next season. He's 28 right now. And I'm just curious to see if they get off to a shaky start, would they consider trading this guy? Because I do not think the Braves, as odd as it is, want to sign this guy. Again, this is the same team. This is the same team that let I'm about to say Brian, Freddie Freeman walk, and Freddie Freeman has had, I would say, a better back end of his career, Dodgers career, than he had with the Braves, and he won an MVP with the Braves. So, just that little piece of it with Acuna. How do you feel about his long-term viability with the Atlanta Braves?
I think the only way they trade him is if they start dreadfully bad. If they're 10-25, I could see it happening. But I just don't. I guess maybe I've sort of mind-hold this in the way that we sometimes do with sports. But Freddie Freeman, I feel like I think of Acuna way more of a Brave than I did with Freddie Freeman. But that could just be totally because he's been on the Dodgers and won so much that I just only think of him as a Dodger now. I just don't see that as a guy that they're ever going to let go. But if they're in a situation where they have the analytical benefit because they're such an analytically run team, maybe they could go for it. They are definitely a cold organization. They are a precise and a calculating organization. You can see it in the way that they deal their long-term contracts to especially foreign-born players. Some have argued it's a little bit predatory the way that the Braves run their organization.
Oh yeah, they signed their players to 360 deals. Me and my friends have talked about this for a while. Yes, they are the Interscope, the Def Jam Records, the not really NWA anymore. The Sean Diddy Combs of MLB. They're just getting those 360 deals going.
So yeah, they are the type of organization that could do that because of their, internally they've come to some very blunt decision making. I would be shocked. I would just be shocked that they would be bad enough to do that. But it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. There's another team that I wanted to talk about in the NL East.
Go ahead.
Not the Mets.
Oh, not the Mets.
The Phillies.
Okay, glad to hear.
The Phillies.
Okay.
I think this is the year they fall off the cliff. This is it.
Oh,
I'm calling. Yes, this is my team that is going to crash and burn. So if we're talking
blowing up the core kind of thing.
Yes, we're talking blowing up the core. This doesn't all have to do with Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper, even last night in the WBC, showed that he still, when it matters, is an elite player. He's just got that dog in him in a way that very few baseball players do. I just don't see the way that they're running it back over and over again with the same core, getting the same results, is going to work at all as all of these players age up into their mid-30s and late 30s. That's just not how baseball teams successfully run. That's not how good baseball teams are made. So to me, it just feels like this sort of foolish, well, we kind of want to be competitive. We want to sell tickets. We've got these guys. I just see it as a vibes dumpster fire that is going to get sold at the trade deadline.
So 2 questions. I want to ask you a question about the Phillies, and I want to ask you a question about Bryce Harper. My first question about the Phillies is, they just signed Schwarber to $100 million? No, he got more than Pete, so I guess it was like 150 or something like that. This core has been together for a while now. Schwarber,
Yeah.
Harper. Trey Turner's been on that team now for even a little bit longer. JT Realmuto. No
R.I.P.
Nick
Nick
Castellanos, so we will
Castellanos.
not have yeah. Any
Oh
tragic
boy.
moment in our world. Hey, there's a fly ball
Yeah.
by Nick Castellanos.
Yeah.
Oh man. If you know, you know. But you say blow it up, but my question is kind of how? You know, like again, they just signed Schwarber, they just re-signed Realmuto. I think they did those deals a lot because they couldn't really get anyone else in free agency. I kind of almost think they're like pot committed to this team in a way that the Mets weren't pot committed to their guys, right? Because Pete was able to leave because his contract was up. They were able to make a swap with Brandon Nimmo to get Marcus Semien. They let Edwin Diaz walk. So they were able to replace a lot more of their core guys. Versus, I don't necessarily know if the Phillies can do that because, like I said, they just re-signed 2 of their guys, and Harper and Turner are on like pretty long-term deals. Like they're not,
So,
like they're not able to move. I would say. I mean, like, listen, I think Harper's a great player, so I think if they wanted to get rid of Harper or quote unquote move him, I think that a team would want him. I just feel like it would be tough for him to get moved on his contract because, yeah, like he's same age, 33. He's got 2, 3, 4, 5 more years left on his contract at 20. Now, it's not a terrible deal. It's at 25 a year, but I don't know. I think that'd be kind of tough for them to kind of blow up the team per se. But to your point is they're kind of in a Yankee situation where, like I just said, they're pot committed. And they have made a World Series. They have made another NLCS. But overall, I think this tenure has been slightly disappointing. And I am curious to see, even if they kind of bottom out, if they're even able to trade any of these guys off the team.
I think it's a great point. They have hamstrung themselves to such a degree that they don't really have flexibility either. So they have a bunch of long-term aging players with medium to high contracts. Schwarber's on 5 for 150, so that's pretty massive for a DH. That Real Muto contract is a mess. He's like everything in the world tells us that aging catchers is like it's not going to work. So them doing that signing because they didn't get Bo Bichette and they got their feelings hurt looks so bad to me. So bad. They don't really have another way out. I think your point is well made. I guess the trade would maybe would be Schwarber, but then like there's not tanking in baseball. It isn't quite the same as it is in other sports. They have these contracts that just nobody's going to want. So where does that really leave them? Sort of probably maybe like a middling team rather than just like a flat bottom out. They're not going to like Rockies it. But I just have no trust that they're going to be successful anymore. I think that they have created a formula that it only spells failure going forward.
Yeah. Okay. And my second point was, and this might sound weird. This is why I'm asking you. Has Bryce Harper had like a disappointing, is not the word, an underwhelming career? And the reason why I asked that before you jump me, Harper came straight out of high school to the pros. And I remember when that happened, it was like a couple years after LeBron came to the league. And LeBron at that point was probably in year 5 or year 6 at this point in his NBA career before Bryce Harper kind of came onto the scene, playing in Nevada, of all places. And they were talking about him and even Steven Strasburg, who's been out the league for a while now, as like, this is going to be one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Like, they were talking about Bryce Harper. It felt as like they were talking about LeBron James. And we have seen guys spoken in that way. Like, you probably are too young to know about Slam magazines, but Slam magazines have always been around. But Harper, I feel like, was in a different class of guys being talked about. And yet, I have an odd feeling that, like, he's just been, like, good. Like, Not just good, like great. Like, but I feel like he, in his own tier, has been surpassed by Judge, who's his same age, but came to MLB later. Shohei Ohtani, who's past everyone. Like, I think he's a better player than Manny Machado. I have to say that because he has 2 MVPs. But is it an odd thing to think about a guy who is, I think, flatly considered one of the best players in baseball to be running maybe 4th? I mean, again, like, whose career was better, his or Mike Trout's? I think that's a legitimate question because Trout's been hurt so much. But Trout's got, I think, the same amount of MVPs or maybe one more. But we just don't give a fuck about Trout because he played in, he has 3, but he played in a place where no one cares. You know what I mean? Whereas Harper's definitely been on Phillies for a super long time, but he was on the East Coast, which I think just matters a lot more in baseball. How would you grade this guy's kind of overall career in baseball?
It's a really interesting question because I think it's only, you can only grade it within the context of where he came into the league, which was with this extreme, kind of LeBron-esque hype. So grading it on the curve of that, I think it is going to fall short of what we were possibly sold that this guy was going to be. His peak was extremely high, extremely exciting, and extremely good for baseball because he was one of the faces of the league that was able to sell a sort of more modern bravado that like genuinely got people excited. Those MVP seasons where he was bat flipping and yelling and getting in fights, like he gave a shit and continues to give a shit to such a degree that he was able to genuinely believe this, bring up the league around him and bring up the competitive level around him, even when he played for shitty fucking Nationals teams, and I wish he had been, able to like ride that whole wave with Soto and had like, we could have seen the 2 of them become these like superstars together. And obviously those careers went in extremely different ways. And his second half of this career, I think, has just been, as you kind of put it, good. It's not great. And I think judging it in a whole view then makes the career a little flat. I think if you were to go back in time and tell, little me that he would be the player he is, I would be like, okay, that sounds like a good player, not like one of the all-time best players ever. Do you feel disappointed, or do you feel like maybe we just set the expectations too high?
I think the biggest thing to take away from it is I remember when him and Manny Machado were both up for free agency. And the Yankees were like, we're good. Like to me, that says it all. Because this is a guy who, again, if we're comparing him to LeBron, for all of the things you might want to say about LeBron prior to him winning those championships, every single team would have signed LeBron James. Every single team. Shohei Ohtani. If you wanted to go to any single team, every single team was signing Shohei Ohtani. If Aaron Judge was available to go to any single team when he was a free agent, every single team was going to that. And people, I remember, were like, it's not a great contract. For Bryce Harper, who won, again, he won an MVP for the Phillies. So I think for a guy who I think all the accolades you just said are important, it is oddly like a guy who's just like, yeah, he's good. Right? Like, again, like him and Manny Machado. Again, Manny Machado does not have the MVPs, but I do think that like Manny Machado has his own kind of like flair for the game. Like I think people in Baltimore love Manny Machado, and I think the Padres love him. And baseball's weird in the sense like your market can determine whether or not you are beloved or not. Like we just had a whole Aaron Judge conversation, but I don't know. It's like you said, he left and his former team the next year wins the World Series. His team that he's on right now is debating. You think that the sky's about to fall in on them. And I think if they do not win the World Series, that there will be some serious conversations. The GM can clean it up however he wants to. The GM said he doesn't think he's an elite player anymore. Like, he said what he said. And I think the back end of his career, which he is on now, he's 33. He's signed till he's 38 years old. This will be an interesting kind of next couple of years for Bryce. I mean, he's not an outfielder anymore. He has to play first base. He's a great first baseman. But he had the Tommy John surgery, so the arm's just not going to work anymore as much as out there in right field. And yeah, I think that he is going to be a guy who I would be shocked if it's not a Hall of Famer. I can see him not being a first ballot Hall of Famer. I can see him waiting a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're going from a WAR perspective, I just looked it up. He has 27 WAR in his first 7 seasons with the Nationals, and in his first 7 seasons with the Phillies, he has 26.5. So it's like he's basically been the same player, but it just doesn't feel the same way anymore. His fall off is impacting this image that we have of him. And if he's at 55 WAR, to be a first ballot, you need a lot more than that, So that, or you need a bunch of records alongside you. So if he can get to 60 and be around Ichiro range, maybe we see it. Maybe he can lead this Phillies team that I don't believe in. Maybe he can lead them to World Series, and we're talking about him completely differently. But as you just said, if the GM doesn't believe in you, it's certainly hard to make me, buy in. That guy is seeing you every day. He's seeing your medicals every day. He's thinking about you in every single way to see how he can make this team win a World Series. So if he doesn't have faith, why should I? As simple as that.
Yes, exactly. All right, everyone. That is Lane Riordan. Lane, tell them where they can find you, where they can read you, and all that good stuff about what you got going on, man.
You can read me at Lane Riordan on Substack. Post film, media, sports, pop culture, music, all of it. Find me there.
Yes, and just like Lane, because I am biting off his style, you can also find me on Substack. Yes, I have made my grand return to writing. Not about sports at all. It's more of a life kind of conversation. Find me at Just Richards, Substack.com. Great reads there. It's one article. We're just dipping our toes back in. All right. We're going to try to do once a month. Once a month, everyone. But thank you all for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. Again, subscribe, review, and we'll talk to you guys again next week. All right, everyone. Peace out.